I really can't oversell how good Wordburglar's album is, though. I think if you are a fan of hip hop and having a good time, that you would enjoy listening to it. So, I mean, there's good wordplay and lyrical dexterity, as well as like interesting song concepts and humor and nerd references, and it's great. I like it a lot. Just setting up here, making tests. I think everything looks like it should go smoothly, provided my internet is doing what it should. Wordburglar, I believe he put this album out. Yeah, I should look it up. I think he put it out on Han Solo Records, though. I could be wrong about that. Let's see. I am wrong about that. I wonder, did he put it out completely independently? Let's just search for it. Yeah, looks like it. Oh, nice. He actually has kind of a liner notes on his Bandcamp page for the album. One of the questions I wanted to ask him was kind of about this, so I'm still gonna, like, I didn't see them, but Wordburglar just reposted my stories to his story, so it looks like we're in business, I think. Been playing singles from this album a lot on ATSIC.
Nobody burgle.
Some smart cop might
There's been a lot of them.
burglary with your release.
Okay, here we go. We're both on screen. Welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Doobyis. This is an offshoot of my mix show. The mix show is called After the Smoke is Clear. This offshoot is called Fly in Formation. For the third season of my show, I wanted to reach out and start talking to all the different artists, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it. So far, I've talked to 19 different artists, and today here with me is Wordburglar, longtime MC, currently based out of Toronto. He's got a new project out, and yeah, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad you could join me.
Man, my pleasure. And I got to just start off by saying Fly in Formation is the dopest name. Like, that's, you know, that's the reason I'm on here. I was like, well, the name of the show is so good, I got to come on.
I mean, hey, it came to mind, and I was like, well, now I've kind of got to do the interviews because I've got too good of a name for the segment to just not use it. So, yeah. Thanks.
No,
thanks
much
so
respect. It's, yeah, totally. I, you know, like, I feel like 1 out of every 10 people respect that kind of thing, and then it's like when you hear it, it's like, I get it. Like, I'm the guy that gets that stuff. So.
That's perfect. My show,
Well done.
Honestly, man, like, I try to make my show for the heads, like, you know, by a hip-hop head myself. I'm an MC myself, so like, I really appreciate that wordplay and that lyricism, and always have. That's what I love most about hip-hop, and the ability to tell stories. So I try to, you know, give lyrical hip-hop a home, and dude, your new album is definitely right at home with everything else that I've been playing. You know, it is a little bit mind-blowing how good that was. I had listened through to it once before. I listened through to it again last night, and like, every track on there is good in its own unique way. You know, you've got like a few that are just standard kind of head nod, boom bap, braggadocio stuff on there, but then there's also these like concept tracks or like humorous stuff or just the references. And dude, props to you. I've listened to your work before, but I feel like you just keep leveling up over the years. So yeah, can I get you to give us kind of an elevator pitch on what Burgonomics is about?
Yo, well, thank you. And honestly, it's the elevator pitch. It just keeps going up. Every album I make, I just try and get better and better, and just polishing the things, you know. Definitely really appreciate what you're saying. And I love, obviously, like, the wordplay and the punchline, the braggadocio tracks. Like, those are so fun to do, but I also like everything else of hip hop, and like what you were touching on, yeah, the storytelling concept. So I'm just always trying to find new ways to approach a song, new concepts, and sometimes it's just, you know, we could get into it because I know you're an MC too, but you know, sometimes it's just starting a song with a word you've never heard a song start with.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just, it sounds random, but like, just like weird, like, tricks.
Not even just starting with a word, but I mean, like, I love when guys rhyme with stuff that I've never heard anybody rhyme with that, or it's a word that I've heard other people rhyme, but they're using it in just in different ways. I don't know. I was tripping out listening to Black Thought's new album last night. He's a master lyricist, and like, there's just some things on there that it's like, how do some people's brains do that? You know, yeah. But I think that level of lyricism is it's a tough echelon to meet. But since I've started doing the show, I've really realized, like, okay, but there's like 50 to 100 guys across the country doing it, and I mean women too, people across the country doing it. You know, there's so much good music coming out. It's been tough to keep up with. So you know, I appreciate people like you who send the music over and try to help keep me in the loop, because it's all I can do to keep up with all the good music, man.
It's such a hard job. I mean, right before the pandemic, with my last album, I dropped an album 2018, and I guess 2019, I made a point to tour across Canada, you know, just do it myself, booked shows. I played like kind of just about everywhere before, but I was like, I'm going to just go in 1 year and see how much I can see of Canada, from BC back to Newfoundland. And I got pretty much almost everywhere. I didn't get to Northwest Territories, and weirdly, I missed PEI on that trip. So I feel bad because I've been there before and it's great. But yeah. But one thing I noticed, exactly what you're saying, it's like you find these scenes across the country. It's like, these people don't know what's going on over here. And we're so vast, and there's so much good stuff coming out of Canada. And there's no outlets, no one, like, the same 5 names keep popping up. And I'm not going to start whatever. Like, it's great when any good hip hop gets attention. That's amazing.
The guys who get attention make hip hop I like too, honestly.
Totally.
You know? Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's it. No shade at all. It's just, it's frustrating just when you know there's all this good music out there and just people aren't hearing it. Yeah. And so I'm always like, what's going on here? Like, I was rolling with these guys out, like the Clockwork Crew in Vancouver, who I didn't really know until I went and did a show with them in Vancouver. It's like, these guys doing their whole scene over here, you know, same thing. You go to Alberta, like anywhere, Manitoba, Saskatoon, like, you know, these scenes in these places. And I mean, I grew up in Halifax, so our scenes, you know, people didn't know what was going on in Halifax until, like, you know, Buck 65 and Classified really were pushing things out there, right? So
I've been blown away at all the talent out in Halifax. Like the whole like Black Buffalo crew, and then there's like several other camps doing stuff out there too. Like, it's Halifax I play a ton. So yeah, shouts to everybody out on the East Coast too.
I may be biased, but going back to, you know, if I look at like someone like Joe Rum Bombay, who's a name I think should be a household name for hip hop heads across Canada. I mean, he's been holding down hip hop in Canada since like the 80s. And you talk to him and you just get exposed to this whole other side of hip hop. Like, when you look at like the mid 80s, you're not thinking of that many. There's maybe like 2 or 3 Canadian names that pop up, but Joe Rum was holding it down back then, and he's seen everyone in that scene in Halifax come up. And definitely when I was a kid, I was going to the all ages hip hop shows that he was putting on, and that exposed me to the local scene really early. So I know we're going all over the place.
So no, I love it. So Jordan Bombay, he's featured on it was one of the singles. I mean, I think you had 4 or 5 singles off this, but he's featured on Wilco Tapes.
Yeah, he produced that track, and he's just an incredible beat maker. And, you know, shout out Joe. Like, DJ Jazzy Jeff, like, gives Joe mad props. Like, all these like DJs, basically every DJ's favorite DJ loves Joe Run, and you know, I'm gassing him up a lot here.
So is he based in Halifax? He's a name I didn't recognize. Halifax. So yeah, give him the spotlight. That's another thing I love to ask every artist, is like, put some spotlights on people around you. And he was actually, this is perfect, he was the one name I didn't really recognize on your features list. You know, so yeah.
Which is funny because on the whole album, which I'm so proud of working with everybody on that record, but Joe is like really like he's the biggest legend to me who I was able to work with. And we've worked before on songs in the past, and it'd been a few years since we'd actually done something together.
Sure.
Because he's so busy, and it's just like, we're all so busy. But I'm always, you know, it's funny with Wilco Tapes, I was just so happy, and like, I had this beat of his that he had hooked me up with a while ago, and I always loved that beat, but I was like, I don't know, you know, again, as an MC, you know this feeling, like sometimes you hear a beat and you're just like, I love this beat. It's, you know, it's hitting me in this way, but I don't have the perfect song for it yet.
Right.
It's like, so some of my favorite beats I'll be sitting on for years, and then one day something clicks and it's like, yo,
So
I know just the concept. It clicked. And Wilco Tapes, it was like that 80s vibe, and that's like really, that's how I started. Like the Wilco,
yeah.
I just picked up some. I got some, I ordered online, old original, check it out, original Wilco Tapes.
Beautiful.
Which I'm going to be doing a little secret project on these. So I'm trying to collect as many
So
as I can.
you bought them like retro from someone who had a crate of them or something, like?
Yeah,
okay.
Dude, there's old like tape heads out there selling these things,
Wow.
which is hilarious because back in the day, these were the cheapest of the cheap tapes, and now I'm paying like 20 times. If you told
Commodities went up.
me, I'd be like paying $30 for a pack of Wilco tapes. You'd be like, what?
Dude, so what you're rapping about on Wilco Tapes, I think is something that'll probably go over a lot of people's heads. And I mean, maybe I'm actually wrong about this, but at least parts of that, you're talking about pause tapes, right? And making pause tapes. Okay, so
yeah.
I'm gonna shut up.
I mean, every kind of tape.
I've had one person explain what pause tapes were to me, and that's my homie DJ Dice, who I got to give shouts to. When you mentioned that, you know, Joram Bombay was doing hip hop in the 80s, like my homie Dice had a show on the U of A radio in '87 playing hip hop music in Edmonton. When I heard that, that blew my mind. I didn't think anybody was listening to hip hop in Edmonton in 1987. But anyway, shouts to Dice. But he's explained to me what pause tapes were and how that was how, you know, the first beats he was making were on pause tapes. But I want you to explain to the class rather than me doing it, because I don't have the real understanding, you know?
Yeah, so I mean, back then, you know, if you had blank tapes and a semi-decent tape deck player, you could record anything. So I would record songs off the radio, you could plug in your tape deck to the TV or to your VCR at the time and record off that. Like there were ways, like you just get a cheap like $2 cable from Radio Shack, and so yeah, I mean, people are familiar with that. You just dub stuff on tape. So making the pause button loop was a similar idea, except what you would do, you would find a sample. In my case, I would have like records of like my parents or whatever I could get a hold of, some like video games. I remember trying to sample like Super Nintendo.
Okay. Way
before all these Super Nintendo beats were like a thing. And I didn't know what I was doing, but essentially you hit play and record, and you're like playing the sample, and then you pause the tape deck, and then you rewind that sample, and then you unpause your tape deck so it keeps recording. And the trick is to hit it at the exact same time and to rewind your sample, whether you're sampling off the record or whatever. Right. I mean, it's really a medieval way of what we know as sampling now. And it was just something you would do, and I don't even know how I figured it out. Like,
I was just gonna ask, that's the type of thing before the internet, like, was that just something people were talking about? Like, surely some homie at school knew how to do it because somebody told him, like, that type of thing, or like, what the hell?
I don't even know that we didn't even call them pause button tapes at the time. It was just more like I was trying to loop. I was literally just trying to make a beat that I could rap over, because you didn't have access to going on YouTube and just finding instrumentals. Like the only way to get into, like, I had a Fresh Prince single for I Think I Can Beat Mike Tyson, and it had the instrumental on the back, so I could like rap over that. And yeah, Fresh Prince, one of the greatest storytelling MCs of all time.
Hell yeah.
Like, people, of course, Will Smith, he's done all right for himself, but don't forget.
He did a few other things after that, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, don't forget how good Fresh Prince was back in the day. And I mean, he was already legendary when I was like collecting all this stuff. But anyways, you could get, like, instrumentals were very hard to find. And I was just like, I didn't even know they were called pause button tapes, and you just kind of did it. And they were terrible, but I would still make these samples. I can still hear like the things I sampled. And I remember you do it for like an hour to get something that was like 2 minutes long.
Well, and probably like, you know, just since it had to be so precise with the button pushing, like, yeah, it would be a nightmare. You could have a loop just be slightly off. I mean, it's tough enough making beats with modern equipment. You know?
Oh yeah, no, you'd have to listen to it and then like adjust your rapping to like go over it. And of course my raps were, you know, nothing special, you know, but it was just
So
It was fun.
did that ever translate further into, like, do you still produce? Have you produced throughout the years since then?
Yeah, I don't. It's funny. I don't really make beats now because when I was really going out on and working on solo stuff, when I first started doing that, I just worked with guys who knew how to make beats.
Yeah.
And so I love, like, I'm very involved in the process. So I'll sit with producers. I still dig for samples. I'll be like, let's sample it from this time, but actually getting into it and like doing the Pro Tools and Logic and everything else. No, I don't actually like make my own beats. I keep saying I'm going to get back into it, but then it's like, that
maybe
just
one
takes
day
away from writing.
Dude, that's the way I always feel too. I'm like, there's a million guys that make beats, and like a lot of them sit there on SoundCloud and nobody ever raps to them. It's kind of a shame to me that like all these guys put in all this work making all these beats, and I know that like even some of them are like, it doesn't need a rapper on it to be finished. Okay, but like, as a rapper, it could have a rapper on it, you know?
Yeah, like I look at it like pitchers. Like I'm a big baseball fan, so I think of like a pitcher. It's like when you really decide you're going to be a pitcher, especially in the American League or something, right?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I'm gonna ease back on my batting and just focus on the pitching. I can, you know, in a pinch, I can bat. I can still take it. I can still hit. I know what to do.
Sure.
But I'm going to focus on that strength, which is pitching. So for me, I was like, I'm going to focus on the rhyme writing and like rapping and everything that comes with that.
Yeah.
And literally now I'm like, you know, as an indie artist, I'm my own label, project manager. You know,
before when I was waiting for you to jump in here, I actually thought that your album had come my way through a label a while back, and I was mistaken. I went and looked for it online, and you are not on that label. You are making music independently. So like, I mean, even if you were on that label, I would still be calling you an independent artist. But have you worked with some of kind of the smaller labels across Canada in the past? Because
I've been with
right.
I got great relationships with everybody, and I've released stuff through Han Solo and Herbnet and Black Buffalo.
Dope.
And they're all doing their thing. And I just found, like, for me as an independent artist, it was just best for me to, just the way I work, to just keep it all under one umbrella.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, I keep talking about going back in the day, but like when I was just like releasing my first solo stuff, let's say 2006 was like Burglaritis came out, which is kind of what I think of as my first studio album.
Okay.
You couldn't get on iTunes without like a label.
Yeah.
And I had to like, you had to be signed to like 2 or 3 labels to get you in the door.
And have distribution and everything.
So it was like all these hands were in the pie. And you're not making any money to begin with as an underground rapper from Canada. and
even back then, physicals weren't really a lane you could be in, other than at shows. Obviously, merch has always been a lane. But as far as like getting your physical copies in stores, it was like HMV had everything locked down, and it was the same kind of gatekeeping hoops to jump through to really get your independent stuff in there, right? So
yeah, well, I got into HMV, like Burglaritis got into HMV across the country, but it's like I didn't really like any artists that got their records in it, and that was distribution. And again, I'm not throwing shade on people, this is just how business works,
right?
There was like very little to zero money coming back, and there's no promo, and I don't blame it. But the good thing is, you know, if Burglaritis is sitting in an HMV in the middle of like Regina, and some kid takes a chance on it, it's like, yo, that person. And I was that kid taking chances on rap records that I'd never heard of.
Hell yeah, me too, man.
This just looks cool, it sounds cool.
Exactly.
So to that, and you know, people found me that way. Right. College radio helped me out a lot back then.
Dude, and your name, I want to touch on your name here too, because, you know, on your album, you mentioned that like you say your name a lot, or, you know, that people have like kind of told you say your name too much on records or whatever, and you're like, well, it's my record kind of thing. I got a chuckle out of that and totally agree. And dude, like, I think that having a distinct name like Wordburglar, as a guy who runs around calling myself Doobyis, I think it helps stick in people's minds. I think we have names that are gonna be things people remember, and they might chuckle at it for 1 second or two, but once they hear you rapping, they're gonna realize what you do, and it's not an important thing what your name is at that point, right? But I did want you to talk about, because on that song you say like, and I'm gonna keep saying my name all the time, so I wanted you to talk like, what does your name mean to you, man? How important is that?
Well, it originally came as like, it was almost like an adjective, or I guess it was like a sub name, like, because my initials are SJ, Sean Jordan, and I was SJ, and I did this song called The Wordburglar. It was, again, just kind of like concept. It was like the Wordburglar, I burgle words. Like, I love saying it. It's fun to say I burgle words. Like, yeah. And I just kind of came out the gate like with this song, and I remember going around like meeting people and DJs and stuff back, and this is like years ago when I was just starting out as a solo artist. I'd just been SJ, and no one remembered me as SJ, and I'd be on the mic, and then I'd do Wordburglar. They're like, "Oh, you're Wordburglar," and I was like, "Yeah," and it's like, "Well, I heard Wordburglar. I didn't know SJ was Wordburglar."
Sure.
And it's like, I was like, "Yo, there's strength in the name. There's like." And then I was like, well, there could be a million SJ, there could be a million
That's
SJ.
exactly it. I was just going to say, man, like, now that I've been doing this show, like, there are, I think, 4 or 5 guys who call themselves C, like CEE, across Canada right now. And, you know, love to see in Toronto, love to see on the East Coast. I get it. Some people want to just have that simple name, but you did well not going with SJ, I think. And now in a world where it's like your name should be Google friendly or whatever, like, you're still good there. You know, I bet you get that screen name easy any new game you're trying to play if you want it or whatever, man. Right?
Yeah, man. And to me, I'm a big comic book guy, right? So it just felt like a comic book character, and it felt like a larger than life personality, which really is it's who I am. So I was kind of meant to be Wordburglar. It just kind of came to me like Batman.
I love it, man.
But like, I look at like Method Man or like guys like that. Like, you want that name that's like a unique, like, there's only one Method Man. You're not like, yo, I'm the Guelph Method Man.
Yeah.
Like, you're not Guelph Method Man. There's one Method Man. Change your name.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I knew like 3 different dudes' name. I won't even say the name out loud.
Sure. Yeah. No, and I don't mean to diss those guys either. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud either. But yeah.
You just think of different names, and it's like, yeah, like, you didn't check it that maybe somebody else's name. I don't know, Sharpie. I don't know any rappers named Sharpie, but I'm sure there's
probably a bunch. Yeah.
I'm just looking. I got a Sharpie on my desk.
Yeah. I bet there's at least a couple if I Googled it. Yeah. But yo, speaking of other rappers, dude, there's the track we were talking about a little bit yesterday. Want to Be on My Posse Cut, that's on Burgonomics, and like, I laughed my ass off listening to that, as well as, like, you know, hats off. I commend you on making a song that's like very thematic and has like a real goal in mind when you went into it. I just wanted to ask, like, how close is that? Well, I guess maybe explain that track first, because maybe people haven't heard it, but then how close is that to the process that you actually go through putting collaboration songs together?
Well, thank you. Yeah, the song is called Wanna Be on My Posse Cut. And look, as a rap fan, you know, you can probably relate here. I love Posse Cuts.
Yeah.
I've heard a million Posse Cuts. And on all my albums, I try and include at least one Posse Cut. And I want there to be a reason. So it's not like, you know, you can go out and like, yo, I'm going to pay so-and-so to come on my song, or I'm going to buy this feature. And it's like, yo, right, I got this Posse Cut. I paid all these rappers to be on my track. Yeah. It's like, yo, what is this? It's like a discombobulated, like, 5 dudes catching their
braggadocio bars. Yeah.
I mean, which is dope. And
sometimes it works. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm in Backburner, and we've done 3 albums, and it's all Posse Cuts, and I love it. And but we always try and have themes. We want to stick to things, like bringing it together. And there's a million people who make super dope Posse Cuts.
I played the hell out of that Backburner album, so shouts to you for that. It was called what, Continuum, I think.
Yeah, Continuum we dropped this year, and then there's also Eclipse and Heatwave. Thank you, man. And like, yeah, the crew is
always,
you know, that's the crew's the best. Like that's a whole other podcast I could talk about how dope Backburner is.
Word.
But yeah, so we take Posse Cuts very seriously, and I'm always trying to think of like what would be a good reason to bring people together to do a Posse Cut. So I kind of had this idea that it would just be funny, like what if I'm just like trying to get people on a Posse Cut, but I just can't, and I don't want to spoil it if people haven't heard the song.
Okay.
But you know, like the idea was want to be on my Posse Cut where I'm like talking to other rappers, and it's like the genesis, right? Like Timbuktu is a beat maker and an incredible MC, incredible beat maker, and good old friend of mine. We made a million songs together. So he's like, the song starts off with me just like chilling at his place, and he's playing me beats. I'm like, yo, is this beat available? And then that's how it goes down normally, right? Like if he's like, I got some beats to play for you, check this out. Like,
so one thing specifically that I wanted to ask is, like, when you're reaching out to other MCs, do you normally come at it? Have you laid a verse most of the time? Do you have a hook some of the time? Do you have the concept in your mind to, because on that song, you know, on these kind of metaverse that metaverse, not really in the metaverse, but in these very meta
Zuckerberg, he stole
lyrics you're using. You kind of talk about like, hey, I've got this concept or whatever, as you're talking to the other MCs, and it made me think, like, you know, I wonder how often Posse Cuts do have somebody kind of spearheading it with like an idea like that, as compared to, hey, I got this dope beat, let's all just rhyme on it.
Which is also super dope. Like sometimes I'm just like, this beat sounds amazing, I just want MCs killing it. And like, we've all done that. I'll call up my homies, like, I got this beat, just spit 16 crazy fire rhymes on it. Like, let's just have fun. Let's do cypher style.
Yeah.
But, you know, and as you mentioned about Burgonomic, like every song on that album is there for a reason and there's a concept and a theme, even like the braggadocio tracks or whatever, right? Like Verbal Pursuit is definitely like, there is a theme to that track, even though it's just a crazy beat from Beat Mason and me just like rapping my ass off.
Right.
It's like there's a, you know, it has a purpose.
Yeah. Still cohesive.
Yeah. So want to be on my Posse Cut to just, I guess, finish that up is just the writing process. I worked with each individual MC working on the back and forth. So I had the idea in my mind that it starts off with the producer, then I call up one of my homies, then I get somebody calling and interrupting me, and for some reason they know that I'm already planning to make a Posse Cut.
Yeah.
And then I have to like get off the phone with them to try and like score a big name to get on my Posse Cut.
Right.
Who's of course Mocha Only, who I can't name another name in Canada who I think has like done more consistently dope stuff.
Consistently, like, over the years, exactly.
I was
He's
like,
always
Mocha
been around.
Only. Yeah, so it's like, it's gotta be, and no one's gonna feel dissed if I'm like, sorry, I gotta go. Mocha Only is, you know, on the other line. You know?
Yeah, yeah. The guy has like 1 million albums in the last 25 years or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
man. So and Mocha's so like, dude, he killed it. Like Jesse Dangerously, Timbuktu, and Touch, all good friends of mine, and they all just killed it. And then Mocha just like so hilarious on that track. And you know, as an MC, when I listen to other MCs, if I want to work with an MC, it's like I want them to play to their strengths and them to have fun.
Yeah.
And I want to throw them, like Tim and Touch and Jesse and I have done a ton of tracks together. And so we're kind of used to like throwing around concepts. And like you look at Touch and he's always doing crazy concepts. And Timbuktu with Swamp Thing, same way. And Jesse's always, his writing is so incredible. So,
yeah, Concepts was actually one of the best pieces of advice I ever got given to me, and that was by Touch. Touch kind of, I went to some little seminar he was given or whatever, and that was one of the things that he was talking about, was like, you know, he kind of popped off, he said, and got a lot of attention from a song he made about Star Trek, and how, you know, that ended up being what the newspaper wanted to write about and the mayor wanted to come shake his hand and talk about or whatever. So like, he said, you never know where it's going to come, but it's probably not going to come from trying to make the same songs that other guys make, basically. And I think that that's invaluable advice for any artist, really. But I think it sounds like advice that you've taken, whether it was from him or not, over the years. Somehow you got that idea.
And also just I listen to rap every day. I'm always listening to new rap. Like anyone who says there's no new good new rap is just not listening, because like I could name you 20 albums of the last 20 years. Like every year there's so much dope stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm always listening to new stuff. So I try not to, I don't want to repeat any songs that I've heard. So like, I'm always like, well, I've heard this person do this concept. If I'm going to like do this kind of song, what is my take? What do I have to say?
How can I keep it fresh? Yeah.
Yeah, which is basic, right? I mean, that's what everybody does.
Well,
hopefully.
I mean, it should be what everybody does, right? But yeah, I mean, yeah, common sense isn't that common or whatever, so maybe it's not all the time, right? But
True.
dude, I think you said that your first album that you consider a real album was 06, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to think, like, I own and definitely have in some crate, you know, in storage right now, a CD that I bought at a comic shop in Edmonton. I want to say it would have been 2015 or 16 maybe or so. And I bought it at Macbeth's Comics. They've long since went under, but it made me wonder, like, okay, so you're very into comics. I know this. That CD itself was like entirely comic themed. I apologize, I don't remember the name of it. And I was busy and didn't look back through your discography today to figure it out. But
it's all good. I always joke when people are like, yo, play that Wordburglar song where he raps about comic books.
Yes.
Like, doesn't he always do that?
Kind of all of them, right? No.
Which I don't, but you know, I'll do like a few things and then everybody's like, it's all comics. But it is
well, dude,
all comics.
as an MC, like, you should have references like that have personality to them and that are, you know, what you've grown up around. So I think it makes sense to always kind of be referencing the same types of things. I mean, yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah. Yeah, I always will. I'm worried. My next concept album is all about comic books. So there you go.
Dope.
It's like, actually, I'll be like, this is the first album that is fully about comics.
Nice.
Everyone thinks all mine.
I actually recently made a theme song for a comic called Trikovi that is getting a 5-book run on an independent. So if you ever see Trikovi, you should pick that up. It's by a guy named Adrian Koleric in Edmonton. He goes by Think Item and does you know, street art and stuff. But I did a theme song for him. Actually, I think I have it sitting right here. Yeah. But there's a little 7-inch that has the theme song that goes along with that. And that was before, you know, he got signed to do the 5-issue run of it. So like, that's amazing. I'm excited to see what happens when they put it out. I hope it gets well received or whatever. But you just made me think of that, and it was right behind me, so I'm gonna plug it. Damn it.
Plug. Yeah, I want to hear it. Where can we get that?
So that's over on my SoundCloud. If you scroll down my SoundCloud, I've got it posted there. We're kind of waiting to see whether I should send it to the streaming platforms or not, depending, like, yeah, he wanted to talk to the guys that are doing the 5-book run of it. And, you know, fingers crossed that they want to try to help promote that in some way or another. But for right now, there's only those, like, I think I have 3 of the 20 copies that he pressed sitting behind me right now that he just sent over for me to have. But the rest were like part of a Kickstarter that was when he was originally funding to press the book. I was like, hey, I'll do a theme song and you can give that as a Kickstarter reward. So yeah, like weird tie-ins to comic books and hip-hop, I think, I don't know, for me at least, it seems to go hand in hand. I mean, I did want to ask you though, like, how the hell did you get, were you just going to different comic book stores with your album and like, hey, I'm in town on a tour and I've got this comic themed album, can I sell this here? Like, is that the process, or what the fuck were you doing, man?
Yeah, so well, I worked in comics. Like, I started working at a comic book store when I was in high school.
Okay.
And so I worked at a comic shop in Halifax called Strange Adventures. Anyone on the East Coast, if you ever go New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, go to Strange Adventures. Best comic shops. Like, they're incredible. They're my family to this day. I can't give them enough love.
I'm trying to get to the East Coast next year in the summer, so I will definitely try to touch down at Strange Adventures.
Definitely, like, forget Peggy's Cove. Go to Strange Adventures.
For sure.
The lineups at Peggy's Cove, I mean, whatever. Look,
I mean, honestly, like, that's one thing I like to do when I do travel is go to different, you know, if there's not a Comic-Con to see, like, actually go check out the comic stores. And yeah, local comic book stores are important, man.
Definitely. And then after Strange Adventures, I worked at Silver Snail in Toronto, which is another comic shop. So I was like really deep into comics. Like I still am to this day, but like working in comics retail. So I guess I kind of, and like you, whenever I'm on tour, I go to comic shops, and after a while, like just doing shows, and I played a lot of comic conventions, I just made good connections. So people who worked at comic shops would invite me to either come by for a signing or do a show at the comic shop.
Right.
I would find different comic shops, and like people would be like, yo, you should send your records to this record store and this comic shop in this town. And I just reach out to a lot of places and like cold calling or cold emailing.
Yeah.
Be like, yo, here's a sample. What do you think? And
Well,
9 times out of 10 places were like, yeah, we want your stuff. Send us what you got.
dope.
And that again was like really kind of a grassroots, like all my stuff like is DIY. Like I'm surrounded by just boxes. Like I handle all my
It's a lot of
shipping and
work though, man.
packaging.
Like props,
Yeah, man.
props on that independent grind like that, because you know, you say it like it's a casual thing and like, oh, the connects just come along, but like connects only come along if you're out there shaking hands and if you're putting in the legwork to meet all those people. So you know, that's a grind for sure that I can see and respect. And like you said about HMV, random people might see it, try it, and like it, and that was me, you know, whatever year that was back in the day. So
Dope, man. Thank you.
yeah, man. But you on this one, you have a couple different like specifically comic themed songs. There's like a lot of comic references throughout, and you know, the nerd references throughout are all there. And I don't say nerd as a derogatory. I consider myself a nerd, by the way. So just
Definitely.
yeah,
Well,
man.
dude, Wu-Tang Clan. You know, you can't tell me the Wu weren't nerds about kung fu or
Exactly, man.
like anybody. It goes, as I think hip hop people who are attracted to the hip hop art culture, it's like you have to be nerdy about records and sampling and everything else. So movies and comic books, it all to
Well,
me
and-
growing up, it just all kind of came together. I remember Curtis Blow had a song called Transformers where he sampled the Transformers song, and you know, yeah, Fresh
Well,
Prince was sampling
who
Mike
sits
Tyson's
around
Punch-Out.
thinking of wordplay? You know, like what type of person likes to sit with their notebook thinking of like, what is a clever way that I could say this? Like, it's a bit of a nerdy pastime. I mean, yeah, it can be.
So when
anyways.
I mean, yeah, we don't need to be defensive, but I know there is that like part of us, especially like that we raised thinking like, oh, this is nerdy stuff. But,
Sure.
like
No, I
any
think
rapper that disses rappers making comic book references, like,
nah.
well, what are you rapping about?
Yeah.
You know, like what's so cool? You know,
I agree, man. So I did want to ask though. You've got the track "My Favorite Artist," and you never mention who your favorite artist is in that track, and I won't give away kind of the experience of that song. And I assume that it's not actually written about probably who you would tell me your favorite artist is. So I'll make that disclaimer and get you off the hook there. But
Well,
I do want to know, who is your favorite artist? I mean, like, what? Who's the art that you like? Or is there a way to answer that where we don't have to throw that guy under the bus? Because later you wrote a song about Spawn, and I was like, is it McFarlane? McFarlane's Canadian. He might have ran into him at a Comic-Con, but I've heard McFarlane's a nice guy, so I don't know.
McFarlane's the best, and no, like I love McFarlane. I have so many, you know, look, as a comic book fan, and like, you know, it's like rap. It's like I can't pick
Who's the
one
best?
rapper, producer, DJ that I love.
Yeah.
I love so many. I love so many different
sure.
comic artists. But that song on Burgonomic, my favorite artist, is true. That artist
It's actually about him.
he was my favorite artist, and still when I look at his art, I'm like, wow, his art's amazing.
Okay,
Like,
well,
I
let's
can't
not
deny it.
let's not
But
throw
I
him
will
under
not
the
name
bus.
him.
No,
I'm not naming like.
But I will
there
ask
are
you, how about-
clues in the song
oh, okay.
about who it is? The
Okay, I'll-
clues are all there.
I'll
It's
listen
a real
back.
Story. It's a real story, you know. Obviously, you know, embellished for.
Sure, yeah.
You know,
I've had
entertainment
similar
purposes.
experiences with various creators, but I've also had great experiences with some creators, like, you know, when I got to have Chip Zdarsky do some signing of the first copy of Sex Criminals for me a few years back. That dude was hilarious, and he was talking
Oh, he's great.
to just fan after fan, and you know, wrote a funny thing in my, he said like, "Dear Brent, you're handsome," or something, just fucking hit on me as he's signing my autograph, and like, dude was hilarious. So I wanted to ask, like, who's a creator who you don't have to throw under the bus to name? Let's give somebody props on
Well,
who's
I mean,
a nice guy.
He just passed away, but George Perez was one of my favorite artists of all time.
Yeah.
And like, just an incredible human, and just I've met him a few times. He was so just so nice and just kind with his time and with fans. And you could tell like there was an artist who loved what he did.
Yeah.
And he loved drawing superheroes. He loved getting like into the minutia and into the weeds about it. And like he would get nerdier than the fans about like why he drew these 3 Legion of superhero characters over here and why Nightwing was in this costume and blah blah blah.
Right.
Like, and that was just like, oh, George Perez was a gift to us all.
Perfect.
And may he rest in peace. There's so many great living artists. I've become great friends with a lot of these people. Like Nick Bradshaw's incredible artist, and he's from the Maritimes. And there's another guy who just gives back to the community. He's from New Brunswick. He helps put on comic convention. He's always doing great stuff for like the local scene and for the kids and for anyone. And he's just so kind and generous. And you won't find a more talented artist. Like if you look at Nick Bradshaw's stuff, you're just like, oh my God, this guy is like, he's like art, like you take your favorite artists all together, and I go on. So Nick Bradshaw I got a lot of love for. Steve McNiven, another guy from the Maritimes.
Cool.
He's a huge, superstar from Civil War and so many other comics. And I love Steve McNiven, Nick Bradshaw.
Can I ask you one or two more? Sorry, your buddy Dave.
Oh, I've got to plug Dave Howlett, who's one of my best friends and is also probably my favorite comic artist. Dope. He does a lot of art for my work over the years. You see Dave pop up, and he does his own comic, The Makers. Go check that out. It's so good. He writes and draws. He's like the comic phenom that like why the world doesn't know.
Did he do the cover art for Burgonomics? Because I love the cover art for Burgonomics in the Spider-Man pose, throwing the mic or whatever. Yeah.
That one's Kalman, another one of my favorite artists, Kalman Andrzejowski, who is an incredible, talented artist who's worked in Marvel, and he redesigned Captain Canuck a few years ago, and Kalman, just that cover.
I think it's smart of you to reach out to comic artists. It's actually something I've thought about in the past, like as I've walked around Comic-Cons and stuff and been like, I wonder how much it would cost to get one of these guys to do some cover art or whatever. But I think that's a smart move and just like a good kind of cross-promotional thing and a good look for everybody involved, and you get beautiful art out of them, and why not, right?
I don't want my face on the cover. Draw a picture of me looking cool or something. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's more fun to be swinging above the rooftops. But I wanted to ask just a couple of quick fire comic book questions because I know you love comics. But do you have currently a pull list at a store?
Yeah. Actually, Strange Adventures, they ship me my comics.
Beautiful.
During the pandemic, when a lot of stuff was closing, they were incredible and kept things moving, and they pull my comics. So I do have a pull list. I'm way behind in my stacks. I've got like the stack of comics next to my bed. I'm just about done Rorschach, which ended a while ago, the Tom King series.
I bought that thinking I'm going to wait till all 12 are out. I haven't read the first one yet. So I know your plight, man. Yeah.
It's great though. Yeah, I waited for them all for the whole series to be done, and there's one issue that is there's a character who's kind of like a Steve Ditko. It's a very different take than what I expected, but I like Tom King's stuff a lot. So it's really good.
Cool. I was going to ask, what are you reading currently? You kind of just answered that. Do you have like a huge collection of comic books then?
Yeah.
And if so, can you name? I want to know the gem of your collection, and I want to know like your holy grail that like if you win the lottery you'd buy or whatever.
Oh wow. Well, probably I have the first John Romita Senior Amazing Spider-Man. With the Green Goblin, Amazing Spider-Man 38, and that's a gem in my collection. I got that when I worked at Silver Snail, and it was fascinating. People would come in and sell their comic book collections, and this one guy came in, and half of the collection had heart stamps in them, like a hole punch. And back in the day, people would just do this.
Right.
And this guy was like an incredible collector, and he had this phenomenal collection of like really classic golden and silver age comics, and they all had hole punches in them.
Yeah.
So that Spidey issue actually does not have the hole punch in it. It's not from that collection, but I did get some other comics from that collection because they were like in mint shape,
they had
a heart hole punch.
That's the thing
And it
with
was
those old
the
comics.
guy's
Nobody
name.
knew that they had anything valuable, so they were giving them to the kids, and it was like probably, you know, someone's sister punched a heart in all the ones that were hers or something. You know, like something
But
like
other than
that.
you're like, yo, it's like the first appearance of Wolverine with a heart in it. Like, I heart Wolverine too, but you know, don't damage the cover, kid.
Hell yeah. So something that I've always thought is like a huge crossover between comics and hip hop is crossovers themselves. Like comics, you can be reading, you know, Spider-Man, get introduced to another character, and now you start reading Venom comics or whatever, right? Or you can even be introduced to an independent title that, you know, maybe somebody from the host of Marvel is now doing an independent book over here, so you go check that out or whatever. And I love following those kind of rabbit holes. And with music, with hip hop, I always loved looking through liner notes and you know, seeing who produced what, seeing who's featured where, finding out who I like the work of, and then tracking down more of it. And I feel like in the digital era now, people get less and less of those liner notes, right? So I wanted to ask, like, can you give us a rundown who did the beats for this album? I've seen you do some social media posts, and like, I know probably some of those guys are the producers, but you know, let's give them props.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, Beat Mason, who's been really with me since day one, produced tracks on the album and is just the best. And like another one of these incredible producers who, for some reason, you know, works with me. And just, you know, I love Beat Mason. Fresh Kills, who again has been with me since the start. Tim, and just incredible producer. You may know him from his like MPC pad mashing, and he's recording engineer. So I recorded half the album with Fresh Kills, and then another half with Timbuktu. Well, a little over half with Kills.
Okay.
Timbuktu produced beats. Joe Run produced beats. Joe Run Bombay. Buck 65 produced a track.
Hey.
Who again, Canadian name that
yeah,
you know,
there's a
people
legend.
should know.
Yeah.
Yo, and he just put out a record called King of Drums, which is maybe his best album ever.
I didn't know that. The last thing I heard from him was with him and, was it Tachichi? He did a collabo album with somebody, and they had a track called Bravo, where the horns on it were like, they made me want to, you know, go punch my neighbor. Like, that track's a hell of a good one, man. But
yeah, man. No, King of Drums
okay.
by Buck 65. It's on his Bandcamp page. He has been putting up rarities, and he's been digging through the archives to put up stuff, and King of Drums is incredible, so go check that out. Good, really dope record.
Shouts to him. 1 second, he's the first guy I ever saw playing a sampler and rapping to himself at the same time. I saw him do a show I don't know, someplace on campus at the U of A probably 10 years ago, and yeah, he was the first dude that I saw like rapping to his own as he's tapping in the samples and playing the sampler, which I was like, fuck, look at this guy go.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I could do a whole podcast talking about Buck 65. Like, what a pioneer of Canadian hip hop and like global hip hop. Really, he was, and especially in like the turntablism and sampling and doing very unique things. And when he was, you know, with that whole, without going on too far of a tangent, but like if you look back at like the history of like underground hip hop in like probably the late 90s, you know, Buck 65 was right there. And Anticon and all these labels like like just as Rhyme Sayers was starting out, you know, with like the genesis of all that stuff, like Rich was there, like Buck 65 was there with
Blazing Trails, man. Yeah,
dude, you name a lot of those names from back then, and like Buck 65's contribution is just, it's incredible. So yeah, that was incredible having him produce. So he produced the Wordburglar, which is a comic guy you probably get because it's like my like bat cave.
I was just gonna actually ask you. That's the next question on my list, man, is about the Wordburglar. Are you sitting in the Wordburglar? It looks like you have like a pretty decent streamer background going on there.
Yeah, we're in the Wordburglar, so there's vinyl and comics, and you know, I can play movies and music in 8 formats, and I'm running out of space for hats.
Yeah.
And some action figures and vehicles.
All the dope shit your homies have given you over the years, and
exactly, man. A lot of pens, a lot of lanyards.
I dig it. I'm sitting in a very similar place myself, man.
Yeah, it's the best.
So do you said Timbuktu recorded a lot of it. You don't record yourself then? You're not actually in a studio space right now, kind of too?
I can record at home, but I prefer to record at studios. So I record at Tim's studio, which is fun, and at Kill's studio, the Kiln.
Right.
And for Burgonomic, Kills probably did I think Kills did about 75% of the recording, and Tim did the other 25%. So I went back and forth to their studios. They're just pros. Again, like whenever possible. It's like the beat making thing I was talking about earlier. It's like I could record myself, but I'd rather record with people who are like pros and engineers. They know how to get my voice the way I want it to sound.
Yeah.
I can do takes, and I can just focus on the performance.
So how about for writing? This is something I always ask lyricists is like, do you like writing by yourself with a set of headphones on in a dark, quiet room, and then you go record? Or are you one of these guys that likes to be in a room full of people and you're just gonna write? Or I don't know, do you do the Jay-Z and jump in there and just spit it out of memory or whatever? Like, what's the process?
All the above. I mean, I'm writing every day in any situation. I could be on the bus. I could be just walking. Like I'll be walking down the street and then like rhymes, listening to other songs, and then a song will just start writing itself in my head, and I have to like write it down.
Yeah.
It's just anywhere and everywhere.
I feel it.
Always have unending notes. Like no idea, is spared, and I just write it all down. I got like post-it notes, just sheets of random papers, just.
Yeah.
I'm doing it old school. I got pens. I'm writing on my phone, laptop, and then putting it together. And then when I get in the booth, even when I have stuff written out, I'll do ad libs and freestyle within songs. And just like when you're in the moment, and like I'll tag on things, or I'll do stuff. And like sometimes the best lines or the best parts or the best performances come out when it's just like so fresh. Like I can rehearse the same 16 bars, a dozen times before going in to record it. But then I go in and then I just change it on the fly, or I like do the bars backwards because like the rhyme hits harder if you reverse the lines. Yeah. This is all like the nerdy in the weeds.
This is exactly what this show is for, man. If you have time to tell it, I have time to listen to it on Fly Information. So we just had a guy in chat, Hardcore Hobbs, first time chatter, shouts to him. He just popped up saying he's writing right now. Yeah.
Word up, like you never just always write and you never stop, and like
I feel that, man. I've got the notepad in my phone constantly, like you said, just a bar here or there pops into your mind. You gotta write it down. Yeah.
And you don't know like when it's gonna come up, or like it might be a song idea. Like it's, and like doing those things you said, like being with a group of people, like with Backburner, we would have these like Backburner summits where we would go to like Tim's apartment, and you'd have like 12 dudes crammed into like this bachelor apartment where there's just enough room for a beer fridge and like a recording booth. Like
it might sound like a nightmare to some people, man, like listening to this or whatever might be like, oh god, 12 sweaty guys in a little room. But like I tried to make shit like that happen when I lived in Edmonton and knew a bunch of MCs around me all the time, because that sounds like the dream, to be around creative people. Everybody pushes each other and inspires each other, and that's
go listen. All those Backburner albums, that's how they were made. And that's why we don't put out an album every year as a group, because it's so hard to get everybody together.
Because sometimes you got to go on holiday with the fam rather than holiday to make an album.
And that's I think we just love to do that. But I remember hearing that Hieroglyphics used to do that. And like Wu-Tang, being a kid and hearing about the Wu-Tang, they bought the
Wu-Tang house.
And like everybody goes and lives there, and they make their albums there. And it's like, when you're 13 years old, this is like that. The Wu Mansion is like, that's like the highest like level of life you can achieve.
I mean, the curtain's been pulled back since, and we've heard them all just basically be like, we would bring a bag of clothes and stay there for a week. That sounds about right.
But that's enough. But I mean, I think Hyro and some of these other groups, they would all do it and try and get everybody together, and because that's when you're gonna play off each other, and you're gonna have weird, like again with Backburner, like we would find, like we'd pair off, like we'd go off into groups of 2 or 3 and write together. Then we'd all come back and what did you guys come up with? And anything you can do is just keep writing. That's when people are,
man.
They're like, I don't know what to write. It's like just write anything. write a song about why you can't write. Like, just write.
Yeah, I agree, man. I always tell people like the difference between a professional and an amateur is that the professional makes themselves write. They'll write every day. They can force themselves to write and it'll still be good. Whereas an amateur is going to sit and wait for inspiration a lot of the time. And that's hit or miss, you know, sometimes that'll come, but it'll be once in a blue moon or whatever. But yo, dude, I want to thank you for being here this long. It's been an hour already. I'm just looking at the clock. I don't want to keep you too much longer. But if you've got time, I do have a couple more questions to ask.
Sure, man. Dude, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Like,
I'm having fun, man. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
I just love nerding out about hip hop, man. This is the best.
So this is one I'm gonna tie it into a song on your album, the CDs are back track. But I ask everybody that I've talked to so far, do you buy music? Because I feel like artists often are gonna say, yeah, I buy music. I buy my homies' albums, or like, you know, I buy vinyls. And I see artists selling out vinyls, but when I talk to my friends who aren't musicians and like, you know, aren't neck deep in hip hop all the time, and I tell them like, yeah, I bought $30 worth of singles yesterday to play on ATSIC, they look at me, you know, like I just turned into an alien, and they're like, you're buying music? Like, what? You know, it's almost like repulsive, the idea to them. And I just always ask people like, so in an environment like that, it still costs us money to make art, to make our music. What the hell are we asking? Like, what is the best way for these guys to support? If you're a fan of somebody's art, of their music specifically, what is the best way for them to support you?
I agree. And no, just to answer your question, haven't opened it yet, but there's Sourface MF Doom recently nabbed the CD. I was looking for that because, you know, pretty much the last MF Doom full, like,
hell yeah,
he's got
that's a special album,
like the Black Thought thing, but like, yo, like, and even CDs are back. It's real. I'm burning CDs right now.
Beautiful.
I'm making these like limited edition mixtapes I did for this vinyl Kickstarter I did.
Okay.
And
I like it.
It's physical, man. Like I said, I got the Wilco tapes, and yeah, I do buy music. I find Bandcamp is the best, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I'll support albums I like on Bandcamp and artists, and I just find it's great for discovery, and it allows you to play and you can sample it. Like, you know, go back to HMV when they had those sound booths where you'd go and like, yo, let me listen to this song before I buy the album. So I like that with Bandcamp. I actually don't even have a Spotify account. I'm on Spotify. We got to be on there. I'm not dissing, like, however people want to take in their music.
Right.
I think that's great. If you're listening to new music, whatever way you're listening to it, Twitch, however, like, you're hearing stuff, that's amazing.
I'm not going to lie, Spotify for me, as someone doing this radio show weekly and trying my very best to keep up with trying to listen to every single that everybody across the map is putting out. I follow, 450 odd independent artists across the map, and every week I spend 4 or 5 hours digging through it, and a lot of it makes me want to bash my head against the wall, right? But like, I find the best stuff and I play it, and I think it makes for a show that probably would expose a lot of people who really do appreciate hip-hop to new music by independent artists that they would really appreciate also, because like I've said, I'm very lyrically based, so like I go through and like, it's not all head nod boom bap golden era stuff. I'll do an episode of that, but then I'll do an episode of like trap stuff too, but it'll be trap that I've selected that's lyrically based and good, that isn't the watered down stuff. So there's good stuff.
There's good
all
stuff
over.
in every genre, right?
Hell yeah.
So
hell yeah.
There's like, to quote Jesse Dangerously, and I might get his quote wrong, but he once said that, like, he said, bad rap wouldn't be so bad if good rap wasn't so good.
Hey.
And it's like so true. And so that's why it's hard to accept bad rap when you know there's so much good stuff out there. So
yeah, I mean, as much good stuff as there is, there's also so much bad stuff out there, though. I can vouch for that. So I understand why people sometimes get fed up and do the whole routine of, oh, there's no good hip hop or whatever, because it is sometimes tough to find. And if you're not tapped into that local scene, like we were saying earlier, like what is the CBC interview that they do with a guy every once in a while, like, and shouts to CBC, good that they give that guy the spotlight every once in a while, but like it's not enough, you know what I mean? There's too much rapid fire music to have one rapper spotlighted every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, man. And that's the problem, like, you know, because it's fresh in my mind because I've got the new album out, I'm promoting it, we're going, you know, I want people to hear this thing that I like care about and I've worked hard on, like all of us.
They should
put
hear
something
it.
out.
Yeah.
You want people to hear something, right? So what I find challenging is, at least in Canada, I mean, there's a whole laundry list, but there's not really dedicated rap journalists. I mean, there's people like yourself and like artists, but it's like podcasts and everything, which is the best, but there's not that, like, so that's why there's like those handful of names that you always hear, and they may be super talented. Is like, that's fantastic, and it's great that they're getting that. But like, even the people who interview them don't know why they're so good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shout out to someone I know who is super dope and deserves everything. Shad, who is super dope. Like really one of the greatest rappers to ever come out of Canada. Yeah. Love Shad so much, and Shad's phenomenal. But I will go out on a limb and say that sometimes when I hear an interview with Shad or like something, like I hear somebody talking to them, like, this person doesn't even like know rap. They don't even, I don't know if they get why Shad is so good.
They definitely don't. They're there, you know, like saying, they're right? Sent out to any other assignment to do the little piece of journalism, and you know, they probably haven't listened to the album or whatever. Maybe they did, you know, if you're lucky, but like, no, I totally get what you're saying, and it's one of the reasons why I started doing this. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would have pumped the brakes and waited for like, well, let me get my grant application in here and maybe we can start up these interviews a year from now when I have a team of 6 tech people. And you know, like the first Fly Information video that I did was one of the first videos I've ever edited. I'm making this shit up, I'm building the plane as we're in the air. So it's specifically to try to connect all the different scenes and try to shed more light on more people. And I don't know, the videos sometimes look a little janky. Is the sound quality a little bit off some of those early ones? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but these things are now going to be there on YouTube forever, and anybody who punches in interview of some unknown rapper that they want to know more about, it's gonna pop up, right? So I feel like you got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. The scene should be documented. It deserves to be documented. So
and you're doing it, and that's to answer your question about the music and your friends. That's what we can all do, is just always tell our friends, like, on CDs or back on that song, I say, whoever said compact disc or history didn't know I just made 6 mix CDs. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Now I put them under the tree for every underground head who was running with me. Like my friends who I grew up with, who I know love rap, who maybe don't even check it as much anymore, I make a point to be like, yo, I just heard this album, I think you're gonna love it.
I'm the most annoying guy online.
Yeah.
You know, I'll pop up in guys I went to high school and haven't talked to since, you know, I know these guys from 15 years ago, and I'll pop up being like, hey man, look, it's the new ATSIC mix. Check it out. A bunch of independent hip hop. Like, whatever, man. It's shameless. You got to be to get people to listen.
You got to, man.
Yeah. But yo, dude. So we're on Twitch right now. I got to ask you. You're the first guy wearing a headset. Are you a gamer? I know, like, you know, there's definitely retro gaming references I caught. But I wanted to ask, like, are you playing games now? Do you have a Twitch channel for that matter?
I have a Twitch channel that I don't even really use because I need to get back on there, but I just haven't really.
You've got your background already set up, man. I mean,
I really should. And you know what? I couldn't figure out a good way to run my like old systems on it. Like if I'm playing like Super NES, like that's my like to this day, like. Right. I'm still trying to play every game on SNES ever. Like that's my goal. Is like I'll get the Japanese ones that never came out. I'm big into RPGs. I like Metrovanias, but I play Switch now. Like for the new modern consoles, I'm on Switch like every day. I'll play. I love Switch, obviously, because like being on tour, the more portable gaming you've got, the better. But I just, man, I'm a Nintendo kid. Like I love Nintendo, and Switch has the best Metroidvania games, which is like my you give me a good Metroidvania like Hollow Knight, or the new Metroid they put out last year, and Bloodstained. I don't know, I could go on and on, but I'm into those
okay, so you're playing a lot of
side-scrolling
Switch
RPG
stuff.
Adventure Switch stuff. So
Okay.
I like all games, and I got mad respect for
I see people playing those retro games on their Twitch accounts, and I've seen them like live stream lots of that on like TikTok, and watched guys do the like run throughs of SNES games for sure. So there is some way to do it if you ever have time and wanted to put in to do that, because
you gotta get like the video card plug-in and all that stuff. I'm like,
probably
something
something like that.
Like trying to beat another game or write a song.
True.
And like
True.
really finding the time. Like Burgonomic's my 8th album. I've got 3 more albums that I'm working on right now. Like just finding that time, like. And I want to read comics and just play games. So like even my social media, I'm not like online that much. Like all of us, I'm on, but I'm like not.
That was something I was going to ask, is how do you feel about social media? Is it something that is a chore for you kind of more, or is it I don't know, because I think a lot of us kind of older heads are looking at it like, I guess we've got to do this,
Well, it's fun. Like if I've got a reason to be there, if I want to share something, and it's so amazing for meeting people and chatting with people. Like really, like behind the scenes, like I'm DM with people every day, and like so that's like. But I'm not like posting all the time. But I'm there like answering questions when people like DM me, or like making connections with people, and like
hell yeah.
It's obviously whenever I got a new album out, it's like, yo, I just tweeted 30 times this week, and I haven't. Prior to that, it'd been like a month since I'd done anything. So it's great. And I'm outside a lot. I'm walking around listening to music. Like I'm like listening to music, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm writing, I'm just like working, I'm hustling. So
staying busy. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. So I think social media is great, and I think you need to use it in moderation, and I'm not up on there trying to be like an influencer or something.
Which one are you most active on? Like if people are looking to follow you and stay up on when you have a new release or when you have a new show coming up or whatever.
Probably Twitter and Instagram. Like
okay.
I'm reading Twitter, I'm reading Instagram. It's funny, I go on Instagram and I just like looking at like listening to people doing like DJ mixes, or watching people take photos of action figures. I find comic book art.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I find that the Twitter scene, so like hip hop Twitter is a thing, but it just is quiet in Canada. I don't see a lot of Canadian hip hop Twitter. There are definitely the like critic guys who want to debate ratings on new albums and those kind of things, but as far as artists, I don't see a lot of guys. You're the first person who's told me you're active on Twitter.
I'm on there, but I'm not really like. It's funny because also as an artist, I don't like to get involved in conversations talking about other people's art online.
Yeah.
So I like to, if it's an album I love or whatever, I really want to celebrate and talk about, but I really try not to like get into like the the new Black Thought album. I was telling people about that weeks ago. It's like, this Black Thought album is gonna be amazing, blah blah blah. It's great.
The singles for it were nuts. I agree with you. Yeah, it's
Black
great.
Thought doesn't need me talking about it, but like if somebody puts out an album and it's whack, it's like how am I contributing? How's that helping my day?
I think that's smart, man. I do the same thing critically. If I don't have anything nice to say about something, I'm just not gonna say it. If on my show, if I'm not playing something, that's as much of a diss as anything's gonna get. It's
man. Yeah. Well, and kind of like the song again. Back to my album story, shameless plug.
No, do it.
But like I'm saying is the track, like I'm saying, which is also, it's a play on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it's like I started off with, I got no time to complain, and even less for complainers. So if people are in my feed just complaining all day about whatever, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, don't give me complaints all day. And like I'm saying is about like early on in my career, and probably still now, you could say it, and like with any type of rap, if people people who hate like punchline rap or metaphorical rap,
similes,
whatever,
yeah.
they're like, you say like all the time, like. So like I'm saying is like a dig at those. Like my last album,
yeah,
which didn't even have the, you know, whatever. And I remember like somebody was like, oh, it's this whole album is just like, I'm this like that, I'm this like that, I'm this like that. I'm like, well, that's a joke that I also play up, but also I love that style.
Yeah.
I love saying I'm this like that.
Yeah.
So that's why that track is, I'm like this and like that and like this and it's all liking's like the most nicest thing you can do.
Yeah. Actually, you saying the chorus there just reminded me when I was listening to it, I wanted to make note that like you do have a lot of references to old school stuff on there, to like golden era stuff, you know, like this and like that. That's the Chronic from 93 or whatever, right? And like,
and Public Enemy and Black Sheep and like so many, it's funny going, even looking for that sample, but you're right. Like you always think about the Chronic, like this and like that and like this and but like who was the first person to actually do that?
Yeah,
and even like there's it's funny, there's a Craig Mack thing that he did, like anyways, there's very interesting things, like who was the first person to do that, like this and like that and like this and most people be like, I think it is the Chronic, and I don't know if it is or not.
I might have guessed that like Snoop was quoting Slick Rick or something even on that. It almost sounds like a lottie-dottie kind of a I wouldn't be too surprised to hear Slick Rick or Dougie Fresh say that in, you know, 86 or whatever too, someplace.
Yeah, like it's like this, y'all, it's like that, y'all.
Yeah,
it's like this, y'all, it's like that, y'all. Like,
yeah,
it's very, that's a great hip-hop-ism that we gotta find. Who was the first to say that?
I mean, Rap Genius would probably make a claim telling.
I'm sure, yeah. What am I saying? I'm sure someone has figured this out.
Ask Twitter. Somebody on Twitter fucking knows for sure.
You know, definitely.
But actually, Twitter is where I'm most active too. So I do appreciate that, because to me, I'm always.
Make sure we'll link there for sure, man.
Hell yeah, man. Because to me, I'm always like, okay, but we're a bunch of MCs. We like using words. Why is everybody so active over there posting pictures? Like, you know, somebody say something already. But yeah, anyways, beside the point, I always ask everybody to talk a little bit about their local scene. So I just like to leave it open-ended. Describe the Toronto hip-hop scene, if that's what you want to talk about for your local scene. I know that's where you're set right now.
Well, pre-pandemic, I was running with More or Less, and I didn't even finish shouting out everyone on the album. Like More or Less, Uncle Fess is on there, Iron Monkey, Peter Project, Diagnostic 80. Oh my gosh, so B-Nuts is on there.
Yeah.
DJ Irate is on there, who's crazy. My buddy Rich O'Coin, of course, Mocha Only. Mega Ran is on there. Like Touch, like. Dude, I'm so nervous. I'm like forgetting somebody right now. But yeah, and Brian Sauer, who designed the CD. So for this album, if you like physical, I'm gonna plug it. Burgonomic CD. We're doing 28-page lyric booklet with art.
Dope.
Like it's a full reason to get the CD. But local scene, More or Less, and I was an old friend and like hip hop collaborator and incredible artist, DJ, rapper. Him and I ran the $5 Rap Show, which was a show we started, and 2020 was the 10th anniversary of that show. So we started doing it in 2010, and it was a local hip hop night because Les and I were doing a lot of shows, and we kept getting booked for underground rap nights, but a lot of people we knew couldn't get rap shows. It's like everywhere, right? It's like just people just weren't doing it themselves or weren't hustling, but Les and I had been like doing it enough that we were able to get booked on these like venues that were normally just for like rock bands and stuff like that.
Right.
So Les and I were like, well, you know, we have an opportunity to start making a local rap show. And even though we didn't really want to be like, well, we don't want to be like the hosts or promoters, like that's not really our thing, but it's kind of like what we do. So we modeled it after this older Toronto show where Les and I originally met, called In Divine Style, which was run by Mindbender and Fritz the Cat and Alexis back in the day. And if you want Canadian hip hop history, like In Divine Style, somebody should do a documentary on that, because Mindbender should be a name everyone knows, and you may or may not know Mindbender.
I don't know. No, I was just gonna say you got to send me some links for this afterwards.
I think even Drake has shouted out Mindbender. Like he's an underground hip hop. He's a rapper and like promoter and enthusiast and just writer and
nice.
So Mindbender is like, he ran this local hip hop night. Les and I started $5 rap show, and it was like almost like, well, we used to love that he would do this indie night. And it was just basically all indie rappers and DJs and B-boys, B-girls, and just good vibes.
Yeah.
Called $5 rap show. And it's like, yo, if your friends won't come out and pay $5 to see you rap, whatever, they're not your friends. And guess what? A lot of friends came out. A lot of people came out. So $5 rap show went on for 10 years. And
so would you guys do like different artists doing different sets at that, or would it be kind of like cypher night, or what was the format like?
We had a format. We did not make it open mic because open mic gets way
Goes
out of
crazy.
control way too fast. So we would have a set schedule. We would book the artists in advance. Between Les and I, we knew so many different people in the community, and then it just kind of grew, and like word of mouth, and people would recommend other people, and people would come and do their album launches there, like Hand Solo Records, of course, like Thomas Quinlan's a good friend of ours. So he was basically the third part of the $5 rap show family, and Tom was always there with us and helped us. And you know, to Tom's credit, who runs Han Solo Records, he wound up signing a lot of artists who would come and perform at $5 rap show.
Nice.
And then wound up, I think of like Ultra Magnus and like some of these other artists who would come through $5 rap show and then wound up releasing music through Han Solo. And Ultra Magnus, crazy MC.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it was just this great family night. So that was, at least for me, that was like my local scene. We try and do the show regular, semi-monthly. And, now just with the pandemic, things are still scattered and people are still trying to figure out, I think, what the next regular venue is going to be. A $5 rap show will continue, I think, in some format.
One day. Yeah, cool.
One day. We're just everybody's still getting their feet.
I think that's smart, man. I'm personally, I know I'm from Alberta, but I'm still slow playing this whole let's go back out and breathe on each other all the time thing.
Especially in an underground rap night when you got 70 people in a 50-person capacity room. And
those shows often get pretty greasy feeling, they're fun.
Especially if you're in a cypher and everybody's spitting on, it's
passing a mic around.
Spit is like part of the art form.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. So I appreciate you spending so much time here. One last question. What's coming next? You said there's an album coming up. Does it have a name or a set time it'll come out, or what are we looking at?
I'm working on it now. I'm working on 3 different albums. Burgonomic right now is still the big push, for sure. The concept album I'm working on is called Remember the Fan Base, and it's a concept album about a comic shop called The Fan Base.
Cool.
And inspired by my time working in the comic book retail industry. So it's actually a concept album.
I like it.
Set within the retail side of comic books, which, being a guy who worked at 2 of the biggest comic stores in Canada, I may have an interesting perspective on, and I certainly met a lot of interesting people and know a lot of wild stories behind the scenes, and it's just fascinating to me. I only want to do projects that I want to do and I like. So
yeah.
I think if I went to a label, I'm like, I want to do this concept album.
They're like, another comic book album? Stop it. No, you shouldn't stop it. Don't let them tell you
I'm working on that. I got a sequel in the works to Welcome to Cobra Island, which was an album I did almost 10 years ago, and the 10th anniversary is next year.
Okay.
So I'm working on the sequel to that. I've got a little follow-up for Burgonomic X type album, just with a bunch of different song concepts. And I have my vinyl MacGuffin device has been in production. The vinyl has been backed up for months. So those are hopefully going to be available at the end of September. Okay. So we did a crowdfunder on Bandcamp for that. So once that gets shipped and everybody gets their vinyl, I'm going to do another vinyl crowdfunder. So
what about tour? Are you taking off across the country anytime soon? Should people be looking out for that coming up?
Not this year, again, just with... Yeah, it's funny, half the venues I used to play at are closed. Yeah. And the other half are just quadruple booked and sketchy, and you're just I don't know if I want to hop around the country right now. Yeah. So I'll definitely be doing way more shows next year. For now, it's just knuckling down, just working on new stuff, recording. I'm gonna do local shows. There's some good little venues around me where I live. I'm kind of in downtown Toronto, and I'm just kind of popping up here and there, just unannounced, just showing up, doing some little gigs here and there, just
completely unannounced. Or if people in Toronto are following you on the the IG or the Twitter are they going to hear about them?
I'll probably post some of them, and then others, it's just like staying sharp and just flexing the muscles.
Hell
you
yeah.
know, like you just got to keep hitting the gym, right?
Keep the sword sharp. Yeah, hell yeah,
man.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks again for coming by. Everybody who's watching this should go out and at the very least listen to Burgonomics. You should buy it. I always tell people, buy people's merch, buy people's physical copies of the albums. This is definitely one that's going to be worth your money. I think it's 15 tracks, and like I said, there's no skips on it. All great work. So yeah,
I'm
thanks
really
for coming
proud
through.
of it, and like it's really the team I worked with that helped me make this crazy record. So I'm real proud, and thank you, dude. Honestly, like I said, Fly Information, dope title. You're such a dope host, dope artist. So I really appreciate you having me, man. And yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, dude. So Tuesday afternoons, I'm always on Twitch. If you ever see me, you know, I always try to post a go live Instagram story, but feel free, pop up and chat, say hi, whatever. Tuesday afternoons, if I'm not interviewing somebody and I'm on stream, I'll probably be like putting the next episode of ATSIC together. So yeah, anybody who feels like coming through to talk hip hop and just kind of build the scene, chat with each other, trying to build the community over that way too. So
that's really dope, man.
Always
it's really
welcome.
dope.
Yeah, man.
Keep it moving for sure.
Hell yeah. All right, dude. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man. Peace.
Okay, so thanks for people who are in chat. And Hardcore Hobbs, yeah, I appreciate you coming by. Sorry I didn't get a chance to read out all these, but I agree with you that you know, streaming is not the way to support artists. Streaming is a way for artists to get their music in more new ears. So streaming links are good if you're trying to say like, hey, you should check out this guy's song. But people should not sit back and think that streaming stuff on Spotify is going to keep the music industry alive, because it is not. Nobody's keeping the lights on. Little known fact is in Canada, it takes 6 plays to make an artist a penny. So you do the math on that and tell me how many plays it takes to pay a light bill. But yeah, I appreciate you being here. And like I just told Wordburglar, Tuesday afternoons is when I'm normally on Twitch. And if you haven't checked out the archives of the Mix Show, boom, there's the ad page for it. So you can find the archives, mixcloud.com/Doobyis. There's all of season 2. It was 52 episodes long. And then there's 20 some episodes, 25, I think, so far of season 3. Season 2 won the NCRA's Crabbo Award for the best rap program nationally. I was surprised by that. I thought we were still on our way up. You know, I don't consider myself a real DJ. I don't have turntables. I just am a host and I program and like to share music with people. So appreciate people who are here helping build and being here for me to share new music with. Hit follow if you want to come by and hang out more. That always helps a ton. Oh, you did follow. Thanks for that. Appreciate you. And yeah, that's it for me tonight. Peace.